The Iowa Senate debate, which could be called the rural Iowa debate, it was held in Indianola, Iowa, a small hamlet out in rural Iowa. Corresponding with the candidate Joni-Ernst is doing much better out in rural Iowa. The questions were from the moderators of it there. Several moderators, one from the Des Moines paper. She was there, Vicky, let me make sure I get her name right here, from the Des Moines Register. And the questions themselves centered around the Koch brothers' sponsorship of Joni-Ernst. She is sponsored by that, and she fired back in the debate that she was not running, that Bruce-Braley, let me get this right, was not running against the Koch brothers, but running against her. That is partially correct, but it's really not. She's just basically a surrogate bought and paid for by the Koch brothers. She'll be another senator for the Koch brothers. That would be it. And with their Tea Party organism, and one note about the Tea Party's whole existence in the Republican Party is to rally the right wing of that party, of Pat Buchanan, around a quote-unquote populist position. And if you notice in the debate, you'll hear her use such things as faceless bureaucrats. Well, the bureaucrats are faceless. I guess unfortunately for them, if they were corporations, they'd no longer be faceless on the Citizens United. They would be entities that could give all the money they want through their PACs to various candidates. One of the things that they pushed was the Iowa poll. The Salsa people have been doing it. They have Ernst ahead by 6 points in it. And the consensus here from some of the political scientists that were out there, that basically Congressman Braley did not hurt himself. He had a decent night. In my opinion, he did rather well. Now, Ernst brought up such things as the suing of the chicken. That's supposed to make him look petty. It was his wife's affair there. But the whole idea of Ernst wanting to eliminate the Department of Education and several other things, that's a very ultra-right agenda. They spied on the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, and it has been integrated into Iowa. Ernst repeated some of the big lies that the money had been transferred from Medicare out. And there was a reference to the Congressional Budget Office. Part of the problem there was the way they did an estimate, and if you go to Braley's site, but beyond that, that in itself was factually incorrect that they did. Now, understand, the Congressional Budget Office works under current law, and things have changed there. But in terms of the rights of women, the minimum wage there, she leaves it to states' rights. This is another talking point of the party of Pat Buchanan, states' rights, successionists, etc. That plays on the tune of the Koch brothers, because what they're basically trying to do is rally all these people around popular jingoistic themes. And it has worked in the past. You can ask Mr. Ailes about that. It doesn't work as well now. They think they have a formula that they can get squeeze enough votes out of rural Iowa. And of course they have the evangelicals down that are close to South Dakota. Now this is where Ernst's people are. She talks about being a mother, being a soldier. Well, she drove a truck. She's not much of a soldier. But at the same time, this brings those elements together. one of the things she has been able to do is to rally independents. Now, these independents in Iowa are to the right of center, so she's been able to get them. What Braley has to do is run a campaign as Tom Harkin would have ran, and Tom Harkin was very successful at running the campaigns that he ran, and he had been around long enough that he could push these people back. Now, political analysts said Braley needed to have a blockbuster night. He trails, well, yeah, he does trail their likely voters. He needs a turnout from Drake University, that's in Des Moines, Iowa. This is Dennis Goforth. I think Braley showed enough strength to give his campaign a chance to right the ship a bit. That doesn't mean that he won the debate, but he showed strength. Well, if you looked at it from points, he won on factual points. We watched the debate twice. From Bardwell, an associate professor at Simpson College in Indianola, Iowa. Braley's best moments were his challenge to Ernst to support bipartisan immigration reform and a resolute answer to how the president could gather global allies against terrorist threats. The weak point, this is according to Bradwell, was when he was told to be pushed by Kevin Cooley for a Pacific tax proposal. Now, part of the problem on these tax proposals, people run on them all the time, but they rarely, if ever, and Ernst has talked about the flat tax, etc. Rewriting the tax code is very difficult at best. You can ask little Tommy Ryan about that. It's a very difficult job. It just doesn't get done. And Goforth said that Braley started off on a defensive. He didn't have a good answer to the charge about his absence from the House Veterans Affairs Committee meetings, which is smothering him. Well, the whole idea of the Veteran Affairs meetings, he did have an answer there as to where he was and how many he attended. That has caused him some problems out there, and our impression was that he was able to bring it back more or less to 50-50, probably 60-40. Now, many of these people that 60 they're veteran types that are to center right would not vote for him in the first place. But this misinformation there, that where he missed the Veteran Affairs Committee. Now, just because, and you remember, this is in the House. What the Veterans Affairs Committee does in the House has very little to do with reality, because the movement there as far as veteran affairs in the Senate under Senator Sanders from Vermont. So thus what the House committees does is almost irrelevant, because when they go to conference, the Senate people are going to push the bills, and then of course you have President Obama. So these are some mechanistic things that were not brought up in the debate that perhaps should have been channeled in the back door had I been doing it, not Braley, but I was not on the stage. Ernest's best moment, according to Bardwell, was the challenge to Braley, you're not running against those outside groups. But in effect, he is, because the outside groups are what Ernst is. In other words, they are the heart and soul of Ernst. Ernst is just the front lady for the Koch brothers in Iowa. And that's what he should have countered as. This guy, Bardwell, is wrong on that one. Her lowest point was stubbornly pushing the claim that Obamacare cuts Medicare. Well, she could go nowhere else. And a job-killing thing, she cited some layoffs at some places. But those layoffs, one thing you remember about Iowa, and they didn't bring this up, but Iowa has an older population also. And with an older population, they are literally dying off. So that is one of the things that were killing the jobs there. And this, according to Goffert, he's evidently a earnest person, said an excellent performance. She didn't. But Ernest didn't often say anything of substance. Well, it's interesting. He said that she looked right in the camera, radiated confidence. Well, like a used car salesman, basically speaking there, where she was. As far as with Chuck Grassley, well, Chuck Grassley has been around a very long time. But one of the things the Republicans have done is, and if you go, and we've covered quite a few of these debates, from debate to debate, the talking points are basically the same. Faceless bureaucrats, other people's money. She didn't have that term in there. But the states' rights thing, better left to the states to set minimum wage. What it just means, Mississippi would have people working for $3 an hour. So in other words, you'd have great discrepancies within this, what we call 50 continuous United States. So she's pushing a states' rights agenda in Iowa, and Braley had better get on that. He does talk about her being the radical Tea Party type and pushing who the Koch brothers are. The Tea Party is more of an obstructionist. First of all, the agenda there is to not pay any taxes at all for the Koch brothers. And one of the programs we have coming up this week, we'll be talking about college defaults by 80, 75, and 85-year-old people that defaulted many, many years ago on student loans, and they are now garnishing their Social Security checks. And the criteria they put up there is that they can't cut their Social Security income down less than about $800. But in effect, if you look at inflationary pressures, this law was passed in the 90s. So you basically taking $1,000. You are putting the threshold. The threshold should be, I should say, placed at $1,000. Now, the average check is about $1,800. So you look at the garnishment they have at people already on fixed income, and those are some of the things that Ernest should be talking about. But there will be other debates, no doubt, out of Des Moines, Iowa, and you'll have other people there. Jennifer Jacobs was not the person I was thinking of. Kathie-obradovich. Anyway, I'm kind of butchering her name here, but she is generally the person from the Des Moines registry that does most of the political reporting, and she was there tonight as part of the panel. Anyway, this will do it for us. Some of the other polls we were looking at was one out of Louisiana that has Landrieu out of New Orleans ahead in that poll, and there were basically two separate polls. One was looking at 3 candidates, one was looking at 2, and one had Cassidy ahead if you had a head-to-head, and if you had the independent candidate, Tea Party candidate, and she's there. But the reality is the Tea Party candidate. This will do it for us. On to an edited version of the debate, and we shall talk to you later here on iHeart and Spreaker. Good day.
I want to thank the viewing audience here at Simpson and those of you watching on television. And thank you, Senator Ernst. I'm Bruce-Braley. I grew up in a working-class home in a small farm town called Brooklyn. My mom is a school teacher, and my dad ran a grain elevator and sold insurance before he died in 1981. I grew up Working for the Des Moines Register, I got my first job in third grade, and I worked a lot of different jobs to pay my way through college.